Lag BaOmer is upon us. You know, it's not an actual holiday. It's not a day when you actually have a reason to demand time off from work or school, but it's a day that means something to us. So when you want to ask yourself, what is it about? And especially since it's so unusual, in Israel, 1/10 of the population comes up to Miron. What's it about? So when you look at Divrei Chazal, and they tell us that this is the day that of the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva who died in a plague that came upon them because they didn't show sufficient respect to each other, that the deaths stopped. But the deaths didn't stop because of some act of mercy. The deaths stopped because they were dead. There was nobody else to die. So when you think about that, it hardly seems a reason for celebration. So let's take a step back and try to understand what was really happening. So if you want to go really far back, we have to go to the spiritual source of Rabbi Akiva's students. There's a view that the 24,000 students who died were in fact reincarnations of the 24,000 people who died during the Jews' sojourn in the desert. Who were they? They were the people who served an idol that was called Baal Peor. Who was Baal Peor? Baal Peor means actually the master of the opening. What opening? There were people who used to defecate and worship what came forth from their bodies. What were they thinking? They were thinking that being a person means going down to your core, stripping away every facade of civilization, getting down to the animal in you. Camus, who was a great philosopher to many people's views, saw life the same way. So they bowed to their own wastes, very much for the same reasons that people will strip away every other facade of decency and mannerliness that we've imposed upon ourselves to preserve the human image. They were given another chance. They came back. They had Rabbi Akiva as their Rebbe. What was their rectification meant to be? It was meant to be, and I want you to hear this carefully, that they would give each other kavod. That instead of seeing being human and being animal as being basically different forms of the same species, they were meant to see being human as something unique and something to be treasured. It didn't happen. They didn't show each other sufficient respect. But it played itself out, and something was learned from it. The something that was learned from it was picked up in a certain sense, as far as what's revealed to us, by one of Rabbi Akiva's new students. He was such a remarkable man. He didn't give up after the death of his 24,000 students. He started again. He found 5 other students. One of them was Rabbi Shimon. You know, the way we celebrate the anniversary of his death is completely unique. We don't celebrate anybody else's yahrzeit the way we celebrate Rabbi Shimon's. The huge bonfires, the congregation at his tomb. Whose yahrzeit gets this kind of recognition? So and when you hear Rabbi Shimon's statements about himself in the Zohar, you end up with things that seem somewhat puzzling. He called himself Shabbos, which would be the core of meaning. He would say things that sound almost heretical. Say, Adon Pnei Hashem, that's me. What does it mean? This is especially puzzling since the sphera of the day of Omer that his yahrzeit comes out on is Hod Shebahod, which is the last of the sphirot, before you get to Yesod, which is like a funnel that contains them, or Malchus, which grabs them. The lowest of the low or the highest of the high? So the answer is both. His light was so great that it could go all the way to the lowest of the low. It's like the sun as compared to a flashlight. If you turn on a flashlight in a dark room, its range is very limited, but the sun's range is huge. Similarly, Rabbi Shimon's inner light was so great that he could see the godliness in anyone, and we sense it. So the lesson that could have been learned should have been learned, which is that each human being is reachable Each human being has quality. Each human being is somebody who you should never give up on. This is what Rabbi Shimon's life was about. He took the deepest secrets of Torah and he put them down so others could see them because he believed in human capacity. So because of this, when you go to Miron, what you see is the simplest of the simple, the most distant, along with the closest in holiness of the close. So this mixture is exactly what Rabbi Shimon would wanted. He would say, he's lakol, he's for everyone. Come on the day of my simcha, the day of my hilula, and I'll be there for you, just as he was in his lifetime. He promises us. So what did that say to you? Let's say you're not going to Miron. I mean, 250,000 people are, but let's say you happen to be one of the few who are not. It should tell you that the day itself, the day of Hod Shabbat, which is a day of humility, the day of Aaron HaKohen, in a certain sense, his midah was Hod, you could see the splendor in the other person. You can get in touch with your own spiritual brilliance. So you won't be in the place that brought it out the best. Miron was a place that had the capacity to bring this forth. But try to bring it forth wherever you are, so that your own capacity for brilliance touches the people who you normally would ignore or reject. Be there for everyone. Be able to say about yourself, I'm Shabbos, I'm the place of Menucha, I'm the place of safety. Wherever I am, that's where your sense of godliness is. Think about this. Have a great Lag BaOmer. Light those fires. Let them be a ner neshama for Reb Shimon. Have a great day.